Looking back at preseason bold predictions is an exercise almost certain to leave you disappointed, but Coach Rob hit the nail on the head.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Thursday, April 4th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. You're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, joined today, as we are every week, by our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes. As we record on Wednesday, Coach Rob is just getting ready to head west for the Final Four because he's a coach and that's what they do. Even if the Tar Heels aren't there, it's just not quite as sweet. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch of the day, and a special shout out to all you everydayers out there. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So here's where we're headed today. Prior to the season, we had about 3 or 4 episodes in a row where Coach and I made some bold predictions. We played games of red light, green light of, hey, here's a certain stat or a certain something. We're either green lighting that statement or red lighting it because we don't think it's going to happen. So we're going to look back and try to figure out where we looked like geniuses and where we looked like boneheads, which was guaranteed to happen more often. And we'll have some laughs about it. And so all sorts of great topics and categories coming up with that. But where I want to start, Coach, in segment 1 is with our bold prediction show that took place on Thursday, November 2nd, just ahead of the regular season first game. And in that bold predictions show, we each made one. And Coach, I just want to quote yours back at you because I think a lot of people probably would have laughed that day. But my friend, you were so spot on. Here was what Coach said. My bold prediction for this year is that RJ Davis is going to be the ACC Player of the Year. He's going to lead them, the Tar Heels, in scoring. They're going to win enough games. They're going to have a shot at not just winning the league, but even more. If they have a situation where they're a 1 or 2 seed in the ACC, he's the leading scorer and he's carrying them. I could see him being the Player of the Year in the league. Coach Robinson, you, my friend, nailed this prediction. So my question to you with it is, looking back on that prediction of RJ as the ACC Player of the Year, yes, you got it correct. Did it play out kind of in the way that you foresaw it playing out?
No, it really didn't. And the reason why, I thought he'd be consistently good. I thought he'd be consistently good. He'd be the leading scorer on the best team in the league. That was kind of what I was thinking at the time. I was not anticipating him being consistently great. I was not anticipating the 40-point games. I was not expecting him just to literally carry the team at times when he was just absolutely phenomenal. I didn't see him being a first-team All-American. I thought he could, maybe be the leading scorer on the best team in the league, and that's usually who gives that, that ACC Player of the Year. So that was my thinking. No, in my wildest dreams, I didn't expect him to be a first-team All-American.
I mean, that's a great way to put it, coaches. It's like, yeah, some of how he got there was what I thought, but it was beyond, I think, any of us thought he would or could do. And I just think that makes it all the more special because a big part of this show, yes, today we're looking back on these predictions, but a big part of it is it just gives us an opportunity to kind of look back at the season that was, celebrate the wins, bemoan the losses, and things of that nature. And Coach, truly, and I don't even know that we're ready to fully unpack this or historically place it yet, but RJ Davis's performance in the 23-24 season is going to go down as one of the greatest individual seasons in North Carolina basketball history. And I am not overstating that. That's not hyperbole. That is honest to goodness truth. Have you had any sort of moment or time to step back and start thinking about this season for RJ and its place in Carolina history?
Well, I have a teammate like Cormac Ryan to defend him after the last game and come right out and say it. He is one of the greatest players to ever play at Carolina. And that's a huge statement with all the great, unbelievable players that played there. But this season has been unbelievable, way beyond my wildest dreams. I would imagine way beyond RJ's wildest dreams as well. But that's, I think, why we're so excited about hopefully him coming back next year, is the fact that it didn't end the way we all wanted it to. It didn't end the way he wanted it to. It didn't have that dream ending that we all dream of. So that, to me, more than anything else, hopefully would give him the motivation to come back next year.
Man. And I mean, you look back on it now, and we, at the time of us recording that, when you made that bold prediction, the all ACC preseason teams had come out. And even then, like, sure, we didn't know that RJ was going to do everything that RJ did, but there was enough there already to say this is ludicrous that he's being left off of the all ACC preseason first team and second team, like not showing up on either of them. I mean, I feel like just about anybody that watches ACC basketball could have seen that and realized that he should be on those teams. And so, like, that part to me is still to this day indefensible, and now all the more laughably so for those media who didn't select him.
Yeah, maybe the motivation he needed. Maybe that was the thing that really clicked in and said, hey, they're still sleeping on me. They don't respect me. So, and the only way you can change that is to prove it on the court. There's no text or tweet or whatever you want to be able to say. You just got to go out there and prove them wrong. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, time and time again. Coach, you had said as part of that, that he could average 20. And if they could win 25, 26 games along with that, that would be great. And, that was just right in line. Both of those numbers were just shy of where Carolina landed, but right in line with what they needed to do. I mean, honestly, from a regular season standpoint, 25 was exactly right on, correct? Is that where they ended? Yeah, 25 regular season wins. So Coach hit the nail on the head with that. Now, as for my bold prediction, I had said Harrison Ingram would record the third ever triple-double in North Carolina history. I was wrong on that one. Coach got his. I was off on mine. I looked back at his stat lines. The closest Harrison came was the Arkansas game in Atlantis. He had 13 points, 10 boards, and 6 assists. So was 4 assists shy of recording a triple-double. Interestingly, probably the second closest he was Carolina's season-ending loss to Alabama a week ago today, Coach, where he had 12 points, 9 boards, and 5 assists. So while RJ, just unfortunate, I mean, you hate having to say that in the same breath as we're saying how special he'd been. But Carolina, a big part of them not beating Alabama was RJ just not being the RJ we'd seen game in and game out. But I thought Harrison had a really solid performance in that ending game. But Coach, I know Harrison doesn't get to a triple-double, but the type of play that gets you there was in place for Harrison Ingram this year. So as we continue to think back and look back, what just that triple-double-y sort of capability, what did you like about Harrison Ingram's performances this year?
Well, he's just a stat stuffer. And the reason he didn't get to that goal that you had set, he just didn't have the ball in his hands as much because of RJ needing the ball in his hands, Elliot having the ball in his hands a bunch. So he didn't get those type of touches. The guys that average triple doubles are the guys that have triple doubles are the ones that have the ball in their hands constantly. It's the Lucas, the James Harden types that always have the ball in their hands, and then they grab some rebounds along the way. I would not be shocked, and I'm not making predictions necessarily, but I would not be shocked if Harrison comes back, if he sees the ball a lot more in his hands next year, maybe even use him as a primary post-up guy if we don't get a dominant center. And then that's when those triple doubles will come, because then he'll score his points in the post. He'll be able to knock down jump shots. He'll also be able to get, whether they double or whether he just makes good decisions out of the post and get some of those assists in other ways. I could see him possibly getting one before he graduates.
Man, that would be something wild. Hard to believe that in the entire history of North Carolina basketball, it's only happened twice. And once again, as a reminder, they were within just weeks of each other with what happened there. So crazy, crazy stuff. Now, Coach, way to go with your bold prediction. Congrats to you. You win the day. Now, it's been a while since the Heels ended the season ranked in the top 10. They did it this year. But did Coach and I believe it from the get-go? We'll answer that question and a couple other red light, green lights in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Friends, the sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and so much more. I mentioned that Coach Rob is headed out to the Final Four. Well, here are the national championship odds for those four teams. UConn minus 185, Purdue plus 185, Alabama plus 1,300, and NC State plus 2,000. You think the Wolfpack got some more magic in that run? Those are some odds you might want to get in on, but it would take a historic feat for the Wolfpack to keep moving forward. So if you want to get in on that action, visit FanDuel.com/locked on and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, now Coach Rob and I are going to move into some red light, green light conversations we had back on Thursday, October 19th. I've got 3 of them for us, a little bit right and a little bit wrong too. But Coach, let's go with what we got right first because that feels better. The first thing we said was, here's the statement, and we either green lighted it or red lighted it. UNC will crack the top 10 at some point this season. Coach, you and I both greenlit that statement, and thank goodness we did, because Carolina, not only did they make it into the top 10, but they spent the vast majority of the season there and finished the year number 5. Just very briefly, they began the year number 19 in the preseason poll, moved to number 9 at week 4. That was their entry into the top 10. Once they got there in week 4, they fell beyond the top 10 just once the rest of the season, and that was week 6, where they were number 11. Coach, outside of that, this team's consistently was a top 10 team throughout the season, even moving, finishing the season at number 5. Coach, why were they able to do this? Why did we greenlight this? Because of what we saw preseason.
I greenlighted it because I thought they might crack the top 10 once, maybe twice. I did not see this coming. I must admit, a part of it is just being a fan. You're like, oh yeah, we're going to be top 10 at some point this year. I believe in my guys. I believe in my team. I think this is going to happen. I did not see this type of success coming. I didn't think that they'd win the league. Honestly, I thought they'd be maybe 2 or 3. So they exceeded my expectations. I did think they'd crack top 10. I didn't think they'd sit there with the way they did. So I'm excited. Again, really proud of the year. We're disappointing ending always, but man, they had an unbelievable year. And looking back in a week or two, I think we'll feel a whole lot more pride and joy about this team than we did maybe right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good word about the sour taste probably that we all have in this moment, just a week out from losing to Bama. But it really is special. And that's the hard and the joy of the transfer portal era, is that it's just hard to know exactly how the pieces of a team will fit. But I think what this says for the coaching staff is that Coach Davis and his guys correctly identified the pieces they needed to surround RJ Davis and Armando Bacot to continue to grow alongside Seth Trimble and Jalen Washington, and alongside the freshmen coming in Zayden High and Elliot Cadeau. And the pieces just worked. Whereas at a place like Miami, who we'll talk about in a minute, they didn't, and it bombed, right? And so I think that's part of just, you think it works together, but you just don't know until you see the product on the floor. And so, Coach, I appreciate that humility of saying, look, we greenlit it, but same as RJ a minute ago, we didn't know just how green that light was going to be. Kudos to the Tar Heels for their consistency throughout the season, and it's just the product on the floor was great. All right, Coach, red light, green light number 2 that we talked about back on October 19th. Armando Bacot will become the second ever Tar Heel to average a double-double in 3 straight seasons. This had literally only been done once before in Carolina history. And here it is. Armando Bacot, albeit in 5 seasons, did it 3 straight years. We greenlit it, and Coach, we were right. Armando Bacot this year averages 14.5 points and 10.3 rebounds a game. Just to tie those other 2 years together, last year, 15.9 points, 10.4 boards, and his Junior year, 16.3 points and 13.1 rebounds. So coach, he's done it in back-to-back years, excuse me. But interestingly, Armando's numbers went down each of those 3 years. Why do you think that is?
I think his numbers went down as the team got better. Especially this year, they needed more balance. I think his numbers went down because the defense has changed on him too. I think he got doubled more. That first year, they didn't really have to double. Maybe defenses didn't believe that he could score as much in the post. So he had more one-on-one matchups instead of having to deal with the double teams. He had a lot of attention this year. And I think that's why that third score was so important, because we knew RJ would get a lot of attention. He would. Obviously, that third score is going to have to – we talked about third score all year this year.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's more about his numbers going down. And also, I think his confidence in his teammates. When you have guys making shots, when you have confidence, you don't feel like you need to carry the load as much. Then he's not taking as many bad shots. He's not taking as many shots, period. But I did believe he could do it because I knew he'd get a lot of minutes this year. It just, if he could run up and down the floor, he wasn't tired and he wasn't in foul trouble, he was going to play. So, it's an amazing accomplishment, regardless of the fifth year.
That's right. Then that's the point we have to make. I feel like all year long, Corey Alexander was asterisking everything Armando Bacot did. It's funny. On one hand, he's your guy. And on the other hand, he can't win because he's got an asterisk by his name, like he's Roger Maris or something out here. But yeah, it's still incredibly impressive. And coach, I love to just kind of add in with what you're saying there. Like, this dude winds up on the all ACC defensive team. Like, those kind of things are why you look at what Armando Bacot did this year and say, yeah, maybe those numbers came down some, but good grief, it's for good reason, because of the well-roundedness as a player and as part of the team that brought with it. And so for Armando to relinquish some of that, as you're saying, to still get these level of numbers is nothing short of impressive. In fact, I thought Armando doing it the way he did this year was almost more impressive than what we have seen in other seasons. Great stuff there. All right, coach, the third red light, green light that we had from that show was more ACC wide. And the quote was this: the ACC will have 6 or more teams in the 2024 NCAA tournament. And unfortunately, Coach Rob, this is the one that you and I both greenlit and got wrong. However, because the final total was 5. And we had both said, I think you said 6, maybe 7. I said 5, maybe 6. But here's the props that I do want to give is, and obviously the problem here is Miami just burning, like falling off the cliff, not doing well at all. But coach, when I pinned you down to say, okay, give me those 6 schools, here's who you named: North Carolina, Duke, Miami, Clemson, NC State, and Virginia. And it wasn't like those were just the no-brainer top 6 schools in the conference. Like, that's you looking ahead at everything and saying, I think that's might be who it is. So outside of Miami, coach, the other 5 schools you said were the 5 schools that made the NCAA tournament out of the ACC. So first off, coach, very well done there. And secondly, why did you pick those schools?
Well, I think Miami definitely has the talent. If you look back and say, this team's got talent enough to make the tournament. The one I was probably missed it, and I think should have made the tournament, was Pitt. I thought Pitt absolutely deserved to be there. They had a great year. I again, don't understand why they can't make it. Again, they didn't ask us. We didn't have any input into it. But I thought Miami was way talented, more than talented enough to make that tournament. The Pitt thing still bothers me because it just doesn't. I think it's a respect thing for the league, and
right.
I think after seeing what Clemson did, obviously, and what State's doing, the ACC is not dead. I think a lot of people were thinking, "Oh, that's just maybe a 2-team league now with Carolina and Duke." So to see them make the run that they ran, I thought Wake Forest was great at times too, and they were horrible at times. So the league is still as good as ever. Maybe not as great, but they still have good parity along the lines, and I stand with my predictions. I'm still disappointed Miami didn't get there.
Coach, I'm right with you on Pitt. I thought that was the worst Yeah, either Pitt or Indiana State. Those are the two big snubs to me. It was great to see Indiana State rolling along in the NIT, by the way. How cool. They got to play Indiana State in Hinkle Fieldhouse in the semi. Man, that's good basketball right there. The Hoosier State has been done proud. And to be honest, I really thought the committee missed on putting Virginia in. Coach, I just didn't think they had the resume to get there. They had been playing terribly, and they showed it to be that in that play-in game there in Dayton. So unfortunate. So, Coach, that's the one we got wrong, but you were very close in your prediction, and you did get those 5 teams. So maybe I can give you a yellow light win there. All right, folks. Having a starting lineup's worth of double-figure scores is tough, but doable. Did Coach and I think Carolina could get 5 scores in double figures this season? We'll answer that question in just a second. Right after I tell you about Amazon Fire TV, your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that you can plug into your existing TV to provide access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's the tournament or MLB season, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. At the Schade House, I literally have an Amazon Fire Stick on every TV that we have. I love the layout. I love the user experience. It's so great. They've even got that little handy dandy remote that's got buttons. It'll take you right to Disney Plus or Hulu or whatever it is. Also, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On. Not to mention, they've also got great news and entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't done so, you should. Trust me on that. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. One more set of red light, green lights from preseason for Coach Rob and I to look at. This one comes from Thursday, November 9th, just right after Carolina has played their first game of the regular season. We got 4 of these, so we're going to burn through them a little bit. But, Coach, the first one, red light or green light. I said 5 double-digit scores for North Carolina this season. We both answered red light to that one. We did not think Carolina would get there. They've done so before. Including a season in 2004, 2005, which I trivia'd you on and you got right because it was 4 starters and Marvin coming off the bench. So we red lit this one and both said we thought it would be 4 double-digit scores. And Coach, you correctly identified exactly who those 4 would be: RJ Davis, Armando Bacot, Cormac Ryan, and Harrison Ingram. And I mean, I guess that's not the wildest thing in the world to pick 4, and that's who it is, because we knew they would probably get the most minutes and be the 4 leading scorers. But they finished the season. RJ 21.2 points a game, Armando 14.5, Harrison Ingram 12.2, and Cormac Ryan 11.5. And Coach, perhaps that's where the unforeseen thing is I think we both thought Cormac would be the 3rd leading scorer with Harrison 4th. But it was at least slightly inverted with Harrison just over Cormac. Did you see that angle of it coming?
No, I didn't. I really didn't see Harrison being able to maybe getting his shots. I know he can score. Maybe didn't get the volume of shots for him to average more than 11 and 12 points a game. But I think everybody, again, we knew that Elliot wasn't going to get a ton of shots. He was going to distribute, so his points were not going to be able to get to that double figure. And we didn't have a Marvin Williams on the bench. So we didn't have that big kind of score to come in and look for that Vinnie Johnson microwave to come off the bench and start shooting the ball right away. So I think the 4 was pretty solid. To get to the 5th would have been really tough.
Yeah, and Elliot finishes with 7.3 points per game. And I think for this year, as you said there, Coach, you don't really want him up that high. I mean, it'd be great if he got there, but is that at the expense of taking shots away from those other 4 guys? Who are your more prolific scorers that you want to see getting there? All right, Coach, the second one we had on that show was taking a look at North Carolina's bench depth this year and if Coach Davis would utilize it more. So the red light, green light statement was 10 different Tar Heels will average 8 or more minutes per game. Coach, we both greenlit this one And we were ever so slightly wrong because the right answer was 9 Tar Heels who averaged 8 or more minutes a game. That was the 5 starters plus Seth Trimble, both Jae'lyns, and Paxton Wojcik. The 10th would have been Zayden High at 4.5 minutes per game. And Coach, I think that's where we missed this, is I think maybe because of where things were at, we overestimated exactly how much time Zayden High would get once the rotation was trimmed down.
I got to see Zayden play this summer, during camp, and I'll be honest, I was really impressed with his athleticism, impressed with his decision making, and I thought, he's got a chance to get some, major minutes, but more consistent minutes than he did. And I think, again, you're talking about, trimming that roster or that rotation down a little bit later in the year. He just didn't get the time, but yet he was still such a great teammate that I think that was just as important to their success, was his energy on the bench and his willingness to play hard every day in practice. So still a very valuable part of the team.
And I think, Coach, the bigger thing that we can take away from this is that, in that conversation, we had identified that Coach Davis really hadn't used his bench a ton in the first 2 seasons. And I think the big takeaway at the heart of this red light, green light is that Coach Davis did use his depth more, and hopefully we'll be able to moving forward as well. Obviously, that's going to depend on what we learn from the transfer portal, who stays, who goes, who's coming in, who's going out, all of that kind of question. But I think it was nice to see Carolina just be able to utilize that bench more. Number 3, Coach, this one was about Carolina's ability to share the basketball, a red light, green light. It was an assist percentage question in 2 parts. We said, as our red light, green light, Carolina will be over 50% in assist percentage in 20 of their 31 regular season games and finish at 55% or higher for the season. Coach, we said if we want to green light this, it's got to be right in both parts. So we both actually green lit both parts of this, and we were wrong on both parts of this one, unfortunately. Part 1, Carolina fell just shy of those the 20 regular season games over 50%. They did that in 18 of them. By the way, they were over 50% in all 3 ACC tournament games, and then just 1 of the NCAA tournament games. And then for the season, the Tar Heels were over 50% at 51.1, but did not get to that 55% threshold that we were looking at, which would have been a 10% jump from the previous season when they were just at 45%. So, Coach, while Carolina didn't hit those markers that we thought they would, they were just shy of it with the game-to-game scenario, and they still were 6 percentage points better than last year. Did you like what you saw from Carolina from a sharing the basketball perspective, despite us being wrong in our prediction?
Yeah, the improvement was definitely there. You could see them share the ball. We all knew that they were going to. The chemistry was better. Allows the flow of the game to be better. And the games they struggled is the games they the ball stuck too much, and we didn't share the ball as much, or we didn't make shots. I still think it was a good goal, 55%. That's a very lofty goal. But to see the improvement, and I think it's going to get better as the team just buys into what they're doing, what Coach Davis is doing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that number go up again next year.
Yeah, man. So we'll keep watching on that, especially as Elliot has off-season growth, assuming he's back, at which at this point we obviously don't know with certainty, but he's certainly alluded to the fact that he intends to. So we'll keep our eyes on that. All right, Coach, the last one. Armando Bacot will make it to 95 career double-doubles. This was the only one where you and I diverged. You said, red light, he ain't getting to 95 career double-doubles. I greenlit it. And Coach, you were right. I was wrong. Armando finishes 8 shy of that. He finishes with 87 career double-doubles, tying Tim Duncan for the most in ACC history and tying Tim Duncan for the second most ever in NCAA history. Coach, I thought, watching back to prepare for this episode, I thought your reasoning was very sound of hopefully Carolina just doesn't need Armando to do that much. We kind of talked about that earlier with him averaging a double-double. What did you see here from this? Did you think it was the right amount of double-doubling from Armando?
I did. I kind of wish I was wrong, because I wish he maybe had a couple more bigger games and things like that. But I thought the balance would be better. And when balance comes, those individual goals they're irrelevant, to be honest with you. They just want to win games. And I think that's what he was more concerned about. I don't think he really cared about the double doubles. He was just wanting to win basketball games. I also thought Jay Wash would get maybe a little bit more time, and he'd have maybe a more consistent backup. And maybe he wouldn't need to play as many minutes. If you look back, I think we talked about his numbers going down. We also want his minutes to go down, so later in the year he wouldn't run into that wall like we think we did maybe 2 years ago. So
That's right.
Overall, what an amazing career.
Wow.
87 double doubles is absolutely amazing.
That's absolutely right, Coach. I still have not fully wrapped my brain around the fact that Armando Bacot will not put the North Carolina jersey on again, at least to play an officially sanctioned NCAA basketball game. That is difficult. But to your point about the minutes, just slightly up from last year. He was at 30.4, was at 30.3 the year before, but over a minute down from the average of that 2022 national championship run that you just referenced. And so I think that was critical for him being able to stay in the game and be as impactful as he was. What a career for one of the greatest Tar Heels of all time, one of the most decorated, one of the biggest North Carolina ambassadors, which he will still continue to be. Armando Bacot, so grateful that he has been a Tar Heel and will always be a Tar Heel. Coach, this has been fun looking back on things that we got right and things where we went horribly awry. We'll have to make sure we do this again next year. I'll make sure to catalog all these better so I don't have to go back episode by episode and figure it out. So, friends, thanks so much for joining us. We'd love to hear if you got any of your season predictions right or wrong and how that went. I'm sure Coach Rob and I will do some off-season red light, green lights, and other things as we start leading up to the season. Now that we're into the off-season, we can get back to story time with Coach Rob. That'll be a blast as well, so stay tuned for all of that. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, you need to get in there. Come join us. The link is in the show notes. It's free to join. We'd love to have you. If you haven't subscribed to the show on audio and video, do that right now so that you always get it just dropping right into your audio feed, or that you get a notification when we have a new show on YouTube. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, but until then, peace.